The hospital director asked me to step into his office. Dr. Khan, after 14 years, we're bringing in younger talent who can work longer hours. You've been a staple here, but it's time to move on, he said without flinching. Your access to patient files is already revoked. I smiled, removed my ID badge, and said, I'm grateful for every life I touched here. Thank you for letting me serve. I closed the door behind me without looking back. The email didn't have a subject line, just a time and location. 2:15 p.m., director's office. No greeting, no context, just an appointment I hadn't requested. My name is Dr. Zion Khan. I've been a cardiothoracic surgeon at St. Belmore Medical Center for 14 years. Surgical outcomes clean, reputation clinical, no complaints, no drama, until today. At precisely 2:13, I walked past the reception where Margot wouldn't meet my eyes. She just tapped the side of her screen like she was busy. Two nurses whispered in the hallway. One of them had a chart that used to be rooted to me. Used to. I kept walking. I don't believe in guessing. Just evidence. Director Vaughn didn't rise when I entered. He didn't offer a chair, didn't offer water. Dr. Khan, he began, flattening a document I wasn't allowed to read. After 14 years of dedicated service, we've made the difficult decision to move in a different direction. We're bringing in younger talent who can work longer shifts and handle the evolving energy this hospital needs. You've been a pillar here, but it's time. No mention of malpractice, no patient complaint, just energy. He leaned back, avoiding eye contact now. Your access to the EHR system was already revoked this morning. Your surgical slots have been reassigned. Security will collect your badge before 3 p.m. I stared at him for 5 full seconds, then reached for my ID, unclipped it slowly, and placed it on the desk. Thank you, I said, my voice steady, my heart not. For letting me serve, for letting me matter. He blinked. Maybe he expected a reaction, a protest, an argument. But I believe in silence more than noise. Silence holds power. I turned and walked out. But as I passed the surgical board, something caught my eye. A name, slotted into my surgery. Tomorrow's date. Dr. L. Vaughn, his nephew. He was still in his fellowship 6 months ago. That wasn't restructuring. That was replacement. I didn't say a word. But inside something had shifted. Not broken, just realigned. Because what Director Vaughn didn't know, what no one in that building knew, was that I'd seen something, a file he probably assumed had already been deleted, and now I had no access. But I still remembered exactly what I saw. If you're watching this, like, share, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for the next part. This story's only just begun. I didn't drive home. Instead, I parked outside Cafe Finch across from the hospital, the same place where I used to prep for early surgeries or decompress after back-to-back bypasses. Today, I sat at a corner table with a black coffee and a notebook. Paper, no digital footprints. I replayed what I saw that night 2 weeks ago. It was a Friday, late. I had stayed behind to finalize notes on a complex mitral valve repair. I was scanning imaging folders when a directory appeared, not labeled, just a timestamp. My cursor hovered over it out of instinct. Inside were 5 patient files, all marked discharged. But that wasn't the strange part. Each one had billing activity from a subsidiary clinic I'd never heard of, Calix Diagnostics. The charges were unnecessary, duplicate scans, post-op evaluations that never happened, lab work billed on Sundays, and in one case, a patient who had already passed. At the time, I assumed it was a systems glitch. I left a note to flag it for audit, but by Monday, the folder was gone. My access to financial data revoked as part of new privacy policy. I asked Vaughn. He was vague. Told me compliance was taking over non-surgical data control. That should have been enough to make me drop it, but it wasn't, especially now. I flipped my notebook open, wrote down every patient name I remembered. One stood out. Eleanor Reese, a diabetic stroke survivor I had discharged myself. She was billed for an MRI 3 weeks after her release. That MRI never happened. I needed proof, but without login credentials, I had to find another way in. I thought of Avery, our senior medical coder, quiet, kind, and more importantly, still unaware of my termination. She had a tendency to leave her badge in her coat pocket, which hung in the residence locker room. I waited until after sunset. The security team rotated shifts at 6:45 p.m. sharp. I parked by the east side entrance where the cameras were always under repair. Inside, the halls echoed with polished silence. The residence wing was half lit. I found her coat, third locker from the left. The badge slid out easily. I didn't breathe. Until I reached the records room. 10 minutes. That's all I had. I tapped into the system through a terminal that hadn't logged off. Surgical archives. Searched for Eleanor Reese. Access denied. Then I tried something else. Calix Diagnostics. Not in the vendor directory, but under research affiliates there it was. Listed as inactive. Beneath it, a contact name. L. Vaughn, MD. So he didn't just replace me with his nephew. He was billing patients through a ghost clinic he controlled. My hands tightened on the keyboard, and then the lights behind me flickered. Dr. Kahn? I froze. It was Avery, holding a paper cup and staring at me like she'd just seen a ghost. I stood slowly, knowing there was no version of this moment that would sound innocent. But what she said next chilled me. I've seen those files too. Avery shut the door behind her and pulled the blinds. Her hands were trembling, but her voice was steady. I was told to delete the folder. Twice. I didn't speak. I let her explain. That's what I've learned in medicine and in life. Let people fill the silence. They'll tell you everything they think you already know. It was a cleanup request from Director Vaughn's office. The files had patient data, but they weren't tied to real appointments, billing summaries without charts, signatures that didn't match. When I flagged it, my supervisor said, "Don't dig, just comply." She took a breath. That night I made copies. I don't know why, I just felt wrong deleting people. Avery, I said carefully, do you still have those copies? She nodded slowly. At home, encrypted drive. I've been sitting on it, scared. But then this morning, I saw your name removed from the board. No goodbye, just gone. That confirmed it. Vaughn wasn't cleaning house. He was clearing threats. I walked her through what I saw. Eleanor Reese, the Ghost Diagnostics Clinic, the fabricated MRI. She listened, pale and still, then said something I didn't expect. Eleanor Reese is my aunt. The room felt smaller suddenly, heavier. She died 2 months ago, peacefully, but we never saw a final bill. I checked once, just out of curiosity, and saw a $4,800 MRI listed. I thought it was a clerical thing. Until now. Her eyes met mine. What exactly are we dealing with? I don't know yet, I said, but if Calix Diagnostics doesn't exist and Vaughn's name is attached to it, it's fraud on a massive scale, possibly federal. We agreed on one thing. We couldn't confront Vaughn directly. He controlled internal compliance, HR, and had cleared me out within hours. This had to be handled externally, quietly, but we needed undeniable proof. Something concrete, something that couldn't be buried or edited later. Avery had access. I had names. Together, we built a list. 27 patients, all billed under Calix Diagnostics post-discharge, many of them elderly, some deceased. Before we left the hospital that night, Avery turned to me. I want to help, she said, but I need to know what happens if this backfires. I didn't lie. Best case, Vaughn resigns and the clinic dissolves. Worst case, we both lose everything. She paused. What neither of us can afford is silence. We agreed to meet the next night. She'd bring the encrypted drive. I'd bring the contact of someone who might actually listen, a woman I knew from a case years ago. Federal healthcare fraud investigator. We weren't close, but she owed me a favor. But life has its own timing. Because that night, as I pulled into my apartment parking, my phone buzzed, Avery's voice low and fast. Someone just broke into my apartment. I wasn't home, but my hard drive, it's gone. The line went dead. I called back instantly. No answer. Tried again. Straight to voicemail. I sat in the car, engine still running, my hands cold around the steering wheel. Everything inside me told me to rush to her place. But I didn't. Not yet. Not until I thought through what I might walk into. If someone was willing to break in for that drive, they weren't worried about internal policy violations. They were protecting something or someone far more dangerous than a padded ledger. I turned the engine off and sat still. 5 minutes, just enough time to slow my breathing and start thinking clearly again, rationally. I didn't panic. I analyzed. Avery's apartment was 10 blocks from mine. I parked 2 streets away and approached on foot. The lights were off inside her building, but the hallway door had been left ajar. Someone had jammed the latch. I slipped through, up one flight. Her door was wide open, drawers open, laptop missing, papers scattered, and there she was, sitting on the floor near the window, breathing hard, but otherwise unhurt. I'd never seen her like that, pale, rattled, clutching a pepper spray bottle like it had saved her life. I was 2 blocks away when my security app sent a motion alert, she whispered. They knew exactly where the drive was. They? I asked. She nodded. 2 men, black SUV, no plates. I crouched beside her. You need to leave this place. Tonight. They'll be watching. You're the loose end now. She gave a bitter laugh. So are you. We packed quickly, essentials only. No electronics, no calls, no patterns. By midnight, she was in a rented room registered under a name that didn't exist. I stayed at a friend's apartment across the city, a neurologist who owed me from a peer review years ago. He didn't ask questions, just handed me the keys and poured me a drink. By morning, I had a plan. The encrypted drive was gone, but the data might not be. Avery had emailed fragments of it to herself during the initial backup, zipped and password protected, using an old email she hadn't logged into in over a year. I had to buy time. We needed at least 48 hours to recover and verify the data. Then I'd contact the investigator, Julia Langford. But Vaughn was faster than I expected, because at 9:13 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Dr. Kahn, a voice said smoothly. We'd appreciate if you stopped asking questions you don't want the answers to. I didn't respond. He chuckled softly. Your silence is wise. Let's keep it that way. Then the line went dead. I stared at the screen for a moment. Not fear, not shock. Rage. Quiet, surgical rage. Because what Vaughn didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that Avery wasn't the only one with a backup. There was another copy. One even Avery didn't know about. But it wasn't safe with me anymore. And the person who had it had no idea they were now the most important piece in this entire puzzle. Her name was Hannah. I hadn't spoken to her in nearly 3 years, not since the night I left her apartment without saying goodbye. She had been a data security analyst before switching careers to teach forensic computing at a local college. Brilliant, intense, and guarded. Our time together had been short, meaningful, and eventually too complicated. Not because we fought, but because I couldn't give her what she needed, not then. But she had something I needed now. Hannah was the only person I had ever trusted with unfiltered access to my research data, including a long-forgotten folder on my external backup drive titled MedGhost, a private log I'd kept on suspicious billing anomalies over the past 5 years, including Calyx Diagnostics. She didn't know what she had, at least not yet. I didn't call. I went directly to the college where she taught, waited outside the East Wing building until I saw her leaving through the side gate, coat slung over one shoulder, coffee in hand. Same stride, same calm intensity, and when her eyes met mine, same pause. You look like trouble, she said, not smiling. I am, I replied. But this time it's not about us. She looked around cautious. You shouldn't be here. I wouldn't if it weren't urgent. A beat passed. Then she sighed and unlocked her car. 15 minutes later, we sat in her kitchen. Silent at first, I showed her the partial logs Avery had salvaged, explained the revoked access, the fake diagnostics clinic, the elderly patients. Vaughn. Then I said the words I knew would shift everything. I think this goes beyond fraud. I think it's linked to clinical trial tampering. Hannah leaned back. You're telling me patients were billed for procedures they never received, during or after trial participation? I nodded. Her eyes narrowed. That's not insurance fraud, that's FDA territory, possibly NIH depending on funding sources. Exactly what I feared. Vaughn wasn't just pocketing money. He was possibly manipulating trial data, fake results, ghost scans, maybe even falsified patient outcomes. That could explain why the hospital had seen an unusual uptick in successful cardiac trial statistics last quarter, numbers that had won them federal grants and major recognition. Hannah stood, opened a drawer, and pulled out a sleek black drive. "I don't know what's on this," she said, placing it on the table. "But if it's what you think, you'll need help. Real help." "I already lost my job." "You're about to lose more." I looked at her. "You're not scared?" "Terrified," she said, "but not enough to walk away." Before I could say more, her phone buzzed, a single notification. She frowned. "It's Avery," she said. She just sent a message. 3 words. I took the phone and read it aloud. "He found me.